from Toronto, this is John Keogh, and welcome to a new series of the Future of Food Academia. And in this series, I talk to 10 academics, 10 professors for 10 minutes to get their perspectives on what's happening in the food industry and what their institutions are working on today. And I'm delighted to have with me today Professor Darin Detwiler. Hello, Darin.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Oh, fantastic. And I'm sure it's nice and hot where you are, just like here in Toronto. But I'm going
Well, here in Boston, it just started raining.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot straight away, Darin, and ask you in 1 minute if you can give a quick bio overview of who you are and also of your institution.
Great. Well, my name is Dr. Darin Detwiler. I am the lead faculty for the master's degree, Regulatory Affairs of Food at Northeastern University's College of Professional Studies. I'm also the assistant dean of the college. The Regulatory Affairs of Food program is essentially for graduate students who are already in the food industry. It is at the intersection of food policy, food science, and food economics, even food regulatory policy. Ideally, this is a program where students are putting the various pieces together such that they can be change agents, not only to help in terms of compliance within the food industry, but also in terms of some of the bigger goals of food that we see today: food quality, food safety, food defense, food security, and food authenticity. I have over 26 years of experience within the food industry, having had positions in academia as well as advisory positions for the USDA, working with the FDA, and nonprofit organizations as well as industry.
Wonderful, Darin. And I believe your background includes nuclear engineer with the U.S. Navy, right?
Yes, I did do that in the Navy on a submarine up until about 1993 when I lost a son due to E. coli during the landmark 1993 Jack-in-the-Box E. coli outbreak, which actually is what drove me to work in this area, to write and to speak and to consult and to be an academic who works with not only with students but also with industry to bring about some of the needed changes we need.
So Darin, with that in mind, as a parent who's lost a child to a food safety issue and also now as an academic, what do you see as the key issues that the food industry is dealing with, and how is your institution, or you in particular, how are you working to try to address those issues?
There's so many things to talk about, but in this short opportunity, let's just focus on a few. One is technology is first and foremost one of the hot topics today. When you look at the FDA's current budget looking for innovation and technology, primarily looking at accountability and traceability within the industry, we got to look at the various technologies, but it's beyond the technology. It's looking at the data, how the data can be both used in terms of reacting to indicators, but ideally also predictively, looking at ways we can find incidents, find evidence to bring about change to prevent problematic issues from entering commerce, whether that's food safety, food allergens, or what have you. So that's that intersection between technology, data, and the human side of it. That idea of understanding consumers, understanding consumer behavior, consumer needs, understanding the true burden of disease, understanding employee behavior, worker perception of problems and their actions. The second thing I want to bring up is simply that idea of looking at how economics, understanding how most policy is driven by economic decisions, whether it's cost-benefit analysis, return on investment, and how with more advancements in technology, like I talked about, we have more opportunity to collect more accurate data, more detailed data, widespread, wider scope of data. And with all this new data comes opportunity to reevaluate the economics behind not only the technology, but also policy, legislation, actions, industry actions, and how governments, state, federal, and local, respond to these issues.
Well, there are two great points, so the technology and the economics. And I'm wondering, the 3D model comes to mind, the democratization of the technology, making it more affordable and more widespread. decentralization, and of course, disintermediation. Do you see that playing as well, where technology can play a stronger role for industry in doing predictive analytics and allowing industry to do more with their own data?
I'm going to say yes and no on this. Yes, there's great opportunity there, but it takes a lot of work. A lot of people talk about bringing blockchain on board, and things are going to change overnight. Well, if I was to be walking down the street in Gotham and found Batman's utility belt and put it on, that alone does not make me have the capabilities of Batman. There's a lot of work, years of work, working with your various stakeholder groups, understanding your suppliers, your distribution system, your onboarding. There's so many levels of work that has to go into that. And that creates a scenario where you have this balance between barrier to market for those smaller firms that don't have the ability to gain that access, to have all those different workforce needs to support that technology. At the same time, there's that conflict in terms of we don't necessarily want to put all this information out there for everyone to see, because we have some information that we don't want to have other people seeing, whether it's the idea of it could create a litigious situation or it could remove some of our market competitive edge.
Gotcha. And on the economic side, do you think the economics of technology right now is favoring companies? Is it becoming more accessible and more feasible to implement modern tools like blockchain as one, but also AI and machine learning and so on?
I think a good analogy is this idea of how I recently saw a presentation where the presenter talked about how the Ford's assembly line in the auto industry 100 years ago was looking at the food industry in terms of that kind of slaughterhouse inspection line, in terms of inspiration for how the industry can look. 100 years later, you look into an automobile manufacturing plant, you're going to see robots, you're going to see computers, you're going to see robotic arms doing everything. You look into the food industry and you see pretty much the same exact image you would have seen 100 years ago. So it's bigger than any one company making some of these changes. It is an industry-wide change. It would be different, obviously, for different commodities. But it is one of those things that consumers are starting to expect. They're not only expecting that companies are using the most modern advanced technology to do this work, consumers are also expecting to find more information readily, quickly online, to be able to validate and answer questions about who they're buying from, what they're buying, how they're to use it. So many different questions that consumers are asking now that were never really asked before. So computer technology, robotics, whatever, artificial intelligence has a lot of different dimensions, and I think it's one thing that's going to be a long road ahead at the microscopic, the macroscopic, and even that meso level of how industry is going to react to it.
Gotcha. Darin, in the last 30 seconds, if you were up in front of 50 students, whether they're master's degrees or PhDs, they have industry experience, they want to move into the food industry, get more education and training, what guidance would you give them in 20 seconds or less?
That we already have all the technology we need. We just need to look at the fact that it's usually human action, either being unaware or not caring about taking some of the actions that are actually needed to bring about lower risks and safer food. And quite honestly, we need to always keep in mind the fact that it is up to the consumer's interaction with industry to make sure that they're driving that desire, that demand for safer food.
Wonderful. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is Professor Darin Detwiler. And thank you so much, Darin, for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us today. And all the best in your endeavors at the university and in how you aid industry as well in government.
Thank you.